in first to arrive, and why don't you tell us what you'd like some help with?
Yes, I have a site with WordPress. It's called tomballbooks.com.
Right.
And I'm having a problem with deleting files. I have a list of the books I've written on the files. And some of them I want to get rid of, but I can't. And so I'm just able to reduce it to a blue box. But if they click on it, they still get the old file.
Right. So what was the URL for the site? Tomballbooks.com. Tomballbooks.com.
Not Tomball Combo Books, Tomball Books.
Yeah, and I'm there. Let me just check to see if I can admit anybody first. Great. Okay. Jason. Right. So that's I just put the URL in the chat window. Okay, so you have a list of your books. Tales of Madness being the first one, right?
If you scroll down, you can find at the bottom, I have a lot of blue boxes.
Oh, right. Okay.
With no link. But
I'm sorry, the blue boxes with the word download. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, under them, they're just blue boxes with nothing.
Right. Oh, I see. Can you open up this page in the editor site? Are you using the classic editor? Do you know the nature of your site? Is it? I'm sure it's a normal site. The classic editor would be the thing. Can you go to the dashboard and find this? This is the home page, right? So front page, and open it up in the edit mode. And then we can share your screen and look at the actual page. Right. Are you there? Tom, are you at the page in question?
Yeah, it should be now.
Do you know how to, can you share your screen? It's the green button right in the middle at the bottom of your window.
Can you see the screen now?
Not yet. Did you click the green button?
How do I share screen?
The green button at the bottom of the screen says share screen. So click that.
I can't find share screen.
All right, we'll give it one last try. In the Zoom window, the video that you're looking at right now, at the bottom edge of it, there's a list of, there's a row of icons. Do you see the icons? Do you see the icons?
Yes.
Right. There's the very far left one that says mute, and then in the middle, share screen. And in my version, it's green.
You mean the red one?
Does it say share screen?
No.
Well, I'm afraid we're out of luck then assisting you if we can't see your page.
In the upper right, there is a view And he could, he should make sure that he's either in gallery or as opposed to speaker view. Because if you go into speaker view, oh no, it's there too.
Yeah.
The
No, I
bottom
think that it's there
menu is there.
regardless. I don't think you can hide it, so to speak, because that would be hiding all the controls.
Well, so, sometimes it does hide itself, but if you move your mouse down, the icons pop back up.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you guide Tom to do that?
Oh, I see share screen.
There we go.
Okay.
Did you click on it?
How do I get my website on this?
Did you click the button, the share screen button? That's a simple question. Please help us. We're spending a lot of time just getting going here. Did you
I'm
click
sorry,
the
I
share
went to
screen
this
button?
too.
Okay, why don't you work on that and we'll move on to someone who is able to describe their problem and we can provide some assistance. Who would like to tell us what they need? I'm open to the next person, or I can go to.
Okay, I'm ready to share my screen. I can quickly show what the issue is with my website.
Terrific.
Okay, all right.
Doug, go ahead.
That just goes Google Chrome.
That's quite a background you got there.
Yeah, I wish I was there.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, let me just give me 1 second to move these toolbars out of the way.
All right.
So let's put that up there. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so I'm a beginning WordPress person. I'm just learning it. I'm working for an agency and they tasked me with fixing some things on a site. This is actually the development environment on for the production site. And so one of the things that's broken on the site, but I can't figure out how to fix it, is these menus at the top. So watch what happens when I move my mouse over it. You know, it looks pretty normal. Nothing there. But if I use the tab key, so I'm using the tab key to go to the menus. Watch what happens when I tap through the items. You see how the distance for the submenus to the main anchor menu keeps changing. They're not consistent. They're lower down. And when I tab off of the last menu item, you can see that it stays there until I refresh the page. So I'm just going to refresh that. Then there's also, if I do a combination of using the tab key and the mouse, sometimes, yeah, you see sometimes the menu gets stuck, and I really have no clue as to what's going on. So
Okay.
if you could even just help me understand what the issue is, you know, it might be easier to try and find a solution that way.
All right.
It appears that when you are using the mouse, the submenus are responding to the CSS on hover state, and that's what sets their position. When you're using the tab key, they're responding to the on focus state.
Right.
In theory, those positions could be set differently. So the on focus could be set differently from on hover. That might be what's going on. However, I don't understand what's happening with the last menu staying open, even when you navigate away from it.
Right.
For your tab keys. Are you using an accessibility plugin for this?
No, no, that's just, it's kind of, I'm using, the site is built with the Astra theme, and then Elementor was used on top of that.
Uh-huh.
So the tab key responsiveness was just already there on the site, and I haven't really tweaked it that much. So I haven't explicitly. There is a CSS style sheet which I've added some things to, like hover and focus states. So for instance, you can see, you know, that's done in CSS, changing the color of the button when I hover over it or tap to it. But I didn't really do anything other than you can see this is CSS as well, outlining the menus and changing the background color. But as far as actually setting up the menus, well, there's a good example. You can kind of see what's happening here, even with the mouse. It's kind of jumping around. So unfortunately, even though I know CSS a little bit, once you stack a theme and Elementor on top of it, the CSS gets really complicated, especially trying to find the selectors to target, you know, to do it. But you've already given me one idea, I think. So what sort of property is it that controls the height of the submenu? Let me try something here. Give me one sec.
That's a good question.
But I can find out. Give me 1 second. There it is. Well, I love this. I just recently discovered it. Magic CSS. It's got a built-in inspector here. Yeah, just trying to. Yeah, I can't seem to sort of find the selector for the whole submenu itself.
Have you tried using the browser's inspect tool?
Yeah, we can try that. I'm not so good with that, but I'll try that. Let me
It
just
is good
refresh.
just in that it shows
Yeah,
sort of
F12.
how things are grouped.
Yeah, sure. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to refresh the screen.
It's great for finding the on hover element. Not so easy to use the browser's inspect tool to find the on focus element, because as soon as you hover the mouse over what you want, then the on hover element takes over.
Right.
Mm.
Let me just dock this at the right-hand side. Okay, there we go. So yeah, so if I go over it, so if I go inspect here. I'm not really sure what I should be looking for.
Yeah.
Here, and that's the submenu.
So is this navigation menu part of the theme, a plugin that came with the theme, like as a page builder, or is it built in Elementor?
No, it's yeah, it's kind of a bit of a hybrid. It's actually a WordPress menu, and it's put into the header with Elementor with the WordPress menu object.
So I'm just having a look at your CSS here. And there's just a little peek of it right there on the list item, menu item 639 for the anchor. You've got selectors for hover and anchor, hover, and anchor focus there. So in theory, so that's just setting the color. Okay, so it's setting the color the same.
Right, but you gave me an idea though. Like I said, if I can find the right selector that sort of controls the sub menu, sort of the overall container,
Well,
then that's what I would want to kind of target. And like, but what would the actual
but don't we have a basically a list, an unordered list with the LI elements in it, and so it's the spacing.
Yeah.
Of
I
the-
need to
of
just
the
disappear
list.
for about 10 minutes, guys. So I will be right back.
Okay.
right? Just so looking at this. Yeah, I see.
Like one of the things that I would consider doing if it's been built in Elementor is, and you didn't actually construct it initially, but rather you have just tweaked it, is
Yeah.
that it may be faster to simply rebuild the menu since you have all of the pieces and parts right in front of you. I mean, it's essentially just adding the correct pages.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because I mean, a few
And just
people
get
touched
rid
the
of all
site.
any tweaking of the thing to the extent possible, because it does tend to be the case that people can spend a lot of time on very small styling, tuning things when the functionality itself is then lacking because there's no time for it. So unless
Can
you're
I please,
really-
can I please say something? I don't know
Sure.
if you got, okay. I'm using Elementor too. Another option is they offer support for really cheaply. And I've had issues with them, and I would email them, and the next day they will send me the response, tell me what to do. In some cases, they will even tell me what CSS to put in and fix my issue. Because I was having issues with the websites, you know, in different modes, going above the menu and below the menu, and I couldn't figure it out. I contacted them, and the day later they sent me the CSS. I plugged it in, and everything worked for me. Just a suggestion, it's like $14 a year. It might help you if you need some help. They have access to the site. They can know exactly what the problem is, and they can help you out that way. I'm just saying that
Sure,
that's an
no.
option.
I tried that actually with, not with this, but with something else. I forget what it was, but no, my agency has like a pro license.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
So they
supposed to
can
get
help you, yeah.
support
Yeah.
with that, but I posted a question and the response back was, well, this is custom CSS. We can't help you.
Oh, no, that's not what they've done to me. But do you have the premium, like the pro subscription?
Yeah, I think it's not the enterprise, but it's like the middle of the road one.
Okay, because
Yeah.
you know, they've helped
Yeah,
me
I'll
with
try
CSS
again.
and all that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll kind of try again, but I think you're the other person who suggested just trying to rebuild the menu from scratch.
Right. Yeah.
I think I'm
Because
gonna do
when
that
you look
because
at
I just I don't like the way it was done anyways, because it's not an actual Elementor menu. So I just use an actual custom Elementor menu and rebuild it, and then you know, and then see what happens there.
Yeah,
So-
sometimes
I think you'll find that down the road a little bit, the fact that you rebuilt it and therefore know exactly what's in it will then serve you well as
Oh,
compared
exactly.
to now, where you might tweak it to get it to do what you want, but then it has other strange behaviors you don't like, and it's more time down the tube to figure those out.
Yeah,
The-
no, I agree with you
Mhm.
completely. There were
The
so many
other
other
issue-
elements on this website. I went in, even though I'm not like, you know, I'm not anywhere near an expert, just a beginner. I looked at it. I mean, I have years of experience in programming, but not web programming. And I looked at it and just said, why did you do it this way? You know, it's just, you know, sometimes when websites get built by one person, it's just the job has to get done and they just do it whatever way they can do it to get it done. And then it comes to somebody else who has to now try and extend it or fix it, you know, and it's easier to sometimes start over from scratch.
well, what I noticed is if you're got a theme, sometimes it clashes with the Elementor themes.
Yeah,
So, and this could be an issue as well. So, yeah.
So
It's interesting. When
Elementor
I
and
go to
Astra
your
is a very
site,
popular
I have no
combination.
problems with the menus.
yeah,
I'm using Chrome latest edition
yeah.
on Windows, and I have no problems with the menus. I can, they open
Actually,
up
Jock, why don't
properly
you
and so
share
on.
your screen and
Oh,
let's
so
just,
Oh, so that's
check that out.
interesting. So this is Chrome on a Mac. So I'm wondering, I'm just going to pull up my other laptop here. And
wouldn't that be funny if that
I have
were a
the same
browser
problem on
specific
Chrome
issue?
on Windows.
I tried this with Chrome on Windows and it got the same effect that
Okay.
we've observed.
Oh, all right. Fair enough.
You've had the Doug's experience as opposed to Jacques.
Yeah, so I had the same experience that was shown in the Loom video.
Right.
Yeah.
And the
I
same
can't
thing we're seeing.
reproduce what you're doing right now on the screen. I can't reproduce that.
But I think whoever at the very beginning, though, yeah, no, I appreciate what you're saying, but I think at the very beginning, whoever suggested that I think you're right, though. It's the placement of the menu when I tab and the placement of the menu when I use the mouse, i.e. The hover and focus actions are eliciting a different position. I think that's kind of the key. So
Yes, but that you should be able to confirm that by finding padding or spacing values in the CSS, right? Because that's what controls where these things appear relative
right.
to one another.
Yeah, so I'm just not that, again, I'm not that good at looking through all these things, but you know what, I think
All you're
that's
looking
actually good
for
enough
are-
for,
What you're looking for are ways of adding spacing or padding.
yeah, I know how to do
It's
that
just
within
those words
Elementor
exactly.
and
Those
whatnot,
words
but just
exactly.
looking at the CSS to try and figure out what it actually is. But I think you give me an idea, so I want to let somebody else go now. At least
But
you gave me
also-
a couple of ideas to try, which I appreciate.
Remember that this CSS is being generated by both Astra and by Elementor. Some
I
elements are
know.
coming from Astra and some elements are coming from Elementor. It's a question of where the code is being generated from.
Right.
And they may, and the different behaviors may be coming from different sources. One behavior may be coming from Astra and the other behavior might be coming from Elementor.
Right.
But
Okay.
Drew, isn't that what the inspector will turn up by the stroke through line on a style, which indicates that it's being overridden by something else, right?
Well, it doesn't tell you what it's being, it tells you that it's being overridden by another style, but it doesn't tell you which application generated that style. And
Right.
that's one of the really annoying things about this.
Right. So it's kind of like, I'm looking at this right here. I'm kind of hovering over this. It looks like this is something that's almost related to the entire menu structure right here.
And you can see in those selectors that they're prefixed with Elementor, so that you know that those came from Elementor.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, I appreciate you looking at it so far, and yeah, it's given me, something to think about, and play with. So, I mean, this is not a high priority item, just something I gotta continue to work on and find a fix for it. So, yeah, thanks a lot, guys, and look forward to listening to other people's issues and seeing how to solve them. So it's a good way to learn.
I've
All
got
right.
one. If I may, I have.
Sure.
Hello, everybody. I'm working on a site on GoDaddy, and it's a French-English site, and we built it last year. It's been a real headache for me. I don't know why we chose GoDaddy, but anyways, we started it and we ran into all kinds of issues. So one of the issues was So we've implemented Google. Well, we had no choice. It came with Google Translate and Fibo search for the search engine. Google Translate, as you know, is in the cloud. They didn't suggest or recommend WPML or Translate Press or whatever and other translation plugin. We were forced to go with Google Translate. And then not only that, but after we opted for Google Translate, we realized that we had to get the premium version. And then, so the premium version allowed us to override the translations because they were really poor, the transitions were really bad. So how do you override it? You gotta get the premium version. I'm gonna share my screen with you right now. So this is the site. And my question is, so now there is, we either have to get rid of the Google Translate plugin and then migrate to another one like WPML or something else. I don't want to do that because it's a big job. So the search plugin is a plugin called Fibo Search, Fibo Search, and it works well on the English side, but on the French side, there is some issues. And I contacted the creator of Fibo Search, this guy by the name of Damien Gora. He's in Romania or something. And because not too many people are using Google Translate, he was going to offer me a patch so that people can search in the French side of the site. But he decided against it. So now I'm stuck. My client is stuck. People cannot search on the French side. They can search on the English, but not on the French side. So I have to choose now a search engine that would be compatible. It's a Beaver Builder site, compatible with Google Translate. Now they have a bunch of, this is the GoDaddy approved list of apps and extensions that they use. So as you see here, is Fibo Search is what I'm currently using. It clashes with the French side of the site. And then I contacted Elementor, the Beaver Builder community, and some people mentioned Relevancy, which is a search engine. So I'm not sure what to go with. And I thought perhaps maybe somebody there would know a good search engine that would work with Beaver Builder, with Google Translate in a GoDaddy environment. I don't know if and then, you know, and if it is one of these here that's listed, search and filter, Ivory Search, Relevancy, Search and Filter Pro, Search and Filter free version, and Fibo Search. I don't want a free version. I'd rather pay, the client would rather pay for it, because then we're sure that we're not going to have any hicks down the road.
I
So
think we've got a basic idea of
yeah,
what your situation is. Just
yeah,
before others pitch in with their experience, let me just mention that it so happens that one of the sponsors of this group is an outfit called Weglot, WEGLOT. And from a translation point of view, as a translation service, the distinguishing characteristic of that service is that it affects your site. It does not in any way affect your site. It all happens outside of your site by the content of your site. When called for, you know, a page is requested, they get a translated page rather than the original page, but that all happens in the cloud.
yeah.
So it doesn't affect the way the site operates in any way, and therefore search is just search for any site. Now, I'm not recommending this as better than any other service, but simply that it does have that one characteristic of not being integrated into your site in the normal way, number one. And number two, I know that it is considered, it has this feature of you being able to override any string or, any text with your own
Okay.
translation to whatever extent you want to go. Now, I'm just giving you that information to consider.
Yeah.
I'm sure that we have people here who have experience with translation and can tell you about other plugins or services.
Yeah, because
So-
Weglot sounds a lot like Google Translate, because that's exactly what happens there. It's all done in the cloud. But the Fibo search plugin
Wait a second,
clashes.
just wait a second. I think you'll find that there's a distinct qualitative difference in the translation service itself. That is to say, whatever you put in versus and what you get out, there's no comparison between Google and Weglot.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
what we did was we compared the city of Toronto using Google Translate
Yeah.
and the group's own site in terms of the quality of the translation with a translator, like a person who's an expert translator, comparing the two and saying there's no comparison.
Right. There's no, well, that's why we went with the premium version, because we had to override the translation from Google Translate. But so this is because this is specific language. I mean, related to the sweeper part. So a lot of it cannot be translated properly because it's
Yes, but
colloquial.
that's what the feature of a service is, which lets you select a phrase or a term and specify how it's to be translated.
Right.
Or
Yeah. Okay.
not translated.
Right. But then what kind of search engine would work with that? Could you recommend one or?
Whatever. I mean, you choose the search engine for it on its own merits. It
Right.
doesn't have anything to do with the translation.
Right. But I'm just wondering, is there a search engine in this list here that anybody has had experience with, like Relevancy or?
Which list are you talking about?
Relevancy, this one right here.
Alan,
Yeah.
you're sharing the screen from Sweeper Parts and Sales, but when
Yeah.
you change the screen on your computer, you have to reshare. If you want to show us that
Oh,
list,
sorry.
to-
Yeah. Okay.
that's okay. Just no one's
Yeah,
seeing the list you're
okay.
talking about.
I
That
forgot
sounds
to
like-
do that. Yeah. I'm sorry.
That sounds like Phil. Is that you, Phil?
All right.
Yeah, it's me. Sorry, just finishing dinner.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you very much.
I was looking for this
Okay.
list and I couldn't find it. And I thought
Right.
it was my error.
There you go.
Alan,
There
I
it
just,
is.
I just tried the website myself. I just went in and like did a search for the word spring on the English site. Then I
Yeah.
switched to French. I typed in spring. It came up with the list in English.
Yeah,
And I put
exactly.
in the French, but I put in the French word printemps for
Yeah.
spring, and it came
Yeah.
up with nothing. Is
Yeah,
that the
exactly.
issue?
That's the issue. Yeah.
Right, so you're somehow that plugin isn't getting the translated French words.
Right. This Fibo
Yeah.
search is what I'm talking about. That's the
Yeah.
one that I contacted the creator and he said,
Mhm.
it's just for them, it's a numbers game. If there's a lot of people using Google Translate in the cloud version, he's gonna create a patch for it on Fibo search. But for him, the numbers were not there. So, and GoDaddy, they're a bunch of, I don't know what kind of word I could use for these people, but I've learned my experience with them, and I'm never going to deal with them again.
Another
we
happy
also had
GoDaddy
other-
customer.
Sorry.
Another happy GoDaddy customer. I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Well-
if anybody here has a suggestion of me migrating my site somewhere else that will be less of a headache, please, contact me or whatever, because I'm at a point now where the latest issue I had with them, in case you're interested, was so what happened is the firewall was blocking a lot of the GoDaddy IP addresses. So when you clicked on the French version, you had nothing. The site that didn't come up. So we had to ask GoDaddy, we had to ask Google Translate to whitelist all the IP addresses that the overzealous firewall from GoDaddy was blocking. Imagine that. Imagine the madness of having this cloud, this service in the cloud, and having GoDaddy, once in a while blocking IPs because Google Translate is in Armenia of all places. So I don't know if it's because it's near, Russia, whatever, and so they were blocking all these IP addresses, and they blocked them, and we couldn't get the French site for 2 weeks almost. I had to fight tooth and nail with them. I had to get some special.
Okay, on the question of hosting, are
Yeah.
you on one of the premium GoDaddy plans or the sort of?
Yeah.
basic
Well, that
ones?
the client was with them. So when they asked me to update their site, they wanted me to go with GoDaddy. I had no choice. So GoDaddy built it for me, but I should have told them, get out of GoDaddy. I can get you somebody. I would have found, a company here in Toronto to do everything for me. But I had
Well, the
no choice.
reason
My
I
hands were tied.
ask is simply that if your client or your agency or whoever can afford the sort of next tier up, the so-called
Yeah.
managed service hosting providers,
Yeah.
then a lot of these sorts of things disappear because they take a much more active
Right.
position with respect to keeping the
Right.
site up and running smoothly, and will solve problems to an extent that the basic hosts just aren't making enough money to be able to handle.
Right. No,
Yeah.
well,
So some
I'm
place
open.
like
I'm open right
Flywheel
now.
or-
I'm open right now for anything. I'm going to recommend to them because we have to do something.
Right.
Yeah, and I
have to
think,
do
I
So
think,
simply
I
look
think,
at a couple of them like Flywheel or Kinsta, with KINSTA.
Could
If
you
just look
send
at
me
them to
those
see
links?
what they offer and what they cost, and
Yeah,
then use that to compare to other potential hosts,
right.
that'll give you a good idea of
Yeah.
that paying more will probably give you a lot more.
Well, I'll get in
And I-
touch with you then, and then if you can send me a list and perhaps maybe refer me or introduce me or
no
whatever.
problem.
Okay, perfect.
Easy
I think
enough.
Alan,
Yes.
Alan,
yes,
I think
sir.
something else that you need to keep in mind is what Robin was telling you about using a search engine that has on the back end the customization for you to add in your own words, because just as well, who was it who was saying it earlier? So one of the guys was saying he did a search for spring or something and it didn't
Yeah, in
show up.
French. Yeah.
So because of what you're doing with your site, I've got some experience with translating documents because of what my wife has done for some companies, translating for the French for some companies. And when you get into technical language, as you know, it's
Yeah.
very, very specific. And yeah, it was Doug. The whole point is you are talking about a very, very, it can't be translated by Google or anybody,
No.
anyone, no
No.
one search engine
Yeah.
can do it.
Yeah.
Because no one search engine will ever put in
Yeah.
technical language. That's something you have to be able to customize. So one
Well,
way
this
or
is why we
another,
went with the premium version of Google Translate, because that's the only version that allowed you to override their translations. I couldn't do it otherwise.
right?
See,
So
the normal Google Translate, the free version, you put in the English. If the French is bad, too bad. You can't do
yeah,
anything about
no,
it.
that won't work. And this is technical language. It's
Yeah, of
speakers and
course.
all that is
Yeah.
very, very specific. It's
Yeah,
engineered parts.
Yeah, it was laughable. Some of the translations were totally laughable.
But it was cheap.
Yeah, but the worst
It didn't
part
do
of
the
it is
job, but it
the
did
worst
it
part of it.
cheaply.
We go with the Google Translate, the premium version, and then GoDaddy tells us we don't support it because it's a premium
Right.
version. They only support the free version. So
Yes.
it's so you pay more for something, you get less of a service. And
Well,
it's
that's why the next tier up in the
Yeah.
kind of provider.
I'm really interested in that.
You want
Definitely.
the value added that comes
Yeah.
from, more hand holding, more
Right.
features. Actually, WP Engine has recently, come to my attention in terms of its capabilities. So that's another potential one to consider. Anybody else with a managed provider to recommend?
I put the link to WordPress engine in the chat. I think
Okay.
they're pretty good.
Is that
Yeah.
also in the cloud, or is that like Google Translate and Weglot? Is it
No,
cloud
we're
based?
talking the hosting.
Oh, the hosting. Sorry. Okay.
Not, and once you're into the managed service providers, you will have a lot more choice.
Yeah.
And they're less restrictive because the restrictiveness is a cost saving measure on GoDaddy's part.
Yeah,
Yeah, but can I migrate the Beaver Builder site, the whole thing, lock, stock and barrel to the new hosting provider, or do I have to rebuild the site with them?
No,
Well,
in
it-
fact, in most
Yeah.
cases, well, I can't think of any cases where they don't. The host takes care of moving your site from old to new host,
Right,
and you just, so to speak, pick up the car and drive it off the lot. I mean, you're good to go. You don't change the site at all.
right. And
The
then
one
I
there's
can,
factor
one other
that I've
thing-
considered important in hosts is that they use cPanel, which is the
Right.
management level of the.
Right. right,
And once you learn that and you understand it and you're comfortable in it, it's just a drag to have to learn another one,
yeah,
which doesn't necessarily add any features, but it's just cheaper or different. So
Excuse
if it
me,
has a standardized, administrative panel front end, it just makes it easier for you.
Robin,
thank you.
excuse me, Alan,
yes,
there's a
Dale,
hosting
Hi, Dale.
company, there's a hosting company in Montreal, Web Hosting Canada.
yeah,
They're in Montreal, they're bilingual, and they also get their support from Tunisia, which is also a place that has bilingual and all their stuff. So they will move your site, they will, and I'm just thinking they might know really where, what, and how to have it bilingual.
yeah.
Because
Web
that's
hosting,
what they
Managed
do.
Service, Dale, or is that just your regular basic one?
I'm sorry?
What is your experience? Have you used a managed services?
I don't know what
host?
managed is. Nothing, everything just works with them. So I don't, they
You don't
move
know.
over my client's thing. I just,
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's what I'm looking for is managed web services, WordPress, managed WordPress services.
They
this
have
is
it,
one
but I
thing.
just
think of
didn't, I didn't
managed
need it, so.
services Hosting will be your
Yeah.
search term and you'll get what you're looking for.
Okay,
Robin,
so-
On the
Yes, sir.
Robin,
subject of tran-
is Jacques here? I saw he's blanked out, but is he here and listening? Because Jacques was talking in his last little Zoom webinar about WHC, and he might be able to answer that question directly. I don't know if he's hearing us or not, but
Yes, I am.
Jacques, do you know if WHC is a managed?
It offers you both managed and shared hosting, your choice.
Okay, perfect. There you
so
go, Dale, everybody.
double WHT? So
Yes.
WHC.ca.
Can someone send me the link or?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
wanna
doing
miss-
that right now.
Okay,
Wonderful,
good.
thank you.
No, yeah,
Thank you,
it's web,
Jacques.
it's
So
Web
in the-
Hosting, Web Hosting Canada, WHC.
Okay, so.
On the
so-
subject of translations, there are some other options that will get you a translation with search capabilities. The only downside is that that you have to do entirely human and manual translation. It's not machine translation. So if you want automated translation, I don't know, but there are a couple
No, I
of
don't want automated. A lot of the translations I did were overridden because they were manual translations.
Well, if you want to do manual translation, there is a
So this is both a translation and a search engine together?
well, no, different plugins for translation. The search engine plugin would be something called searchwp.com. And that's a paid plugin. And
Did does anybody have any experience with any of those? Because these are, for the time being, are the GoDaddy ones. And I would prefer to get a GoDaddy search engine for the time being so that I can get support from them. Like, has anybody ever used Relevancy or any of these here? Well, not Fiber Search, that's the one I'm using. Search and Filter Pro, Relevancy, Ivory Search, or Search and Filter Beaver Builder extension. Does anybody have any
Doesn't
experience
sound, Alan, like anybody has any experience with them.
with those? Yeah.
Have you checked to see how these plugins are rated? The free ones, for example, most of these seem like premium ones, don't they?
Yeah, they are rated behind the screen, behind the here, like 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5. But the thing is, I have to get the search engine working for the French as a priority. And then after that, I'm going to have to look at migrating the site and doing away with GoDaddy. I can't take it anymore. It's just like, it's been really brutal on my nerves. And so
Our
anyhow,
sympathies are
that's-
with you.
yeah, so I'm gonna probably, because I checked with Beaver Builder community, and they said Relevantium was a good one. So maybe I'll go with this one for now, get it implemented, and after that, I might, pick your brains, Robin, about the, future plans on migrating the site and getting somebody, a third, an upper tier company to be there for us, because I can't take this anymore.
Alan,
Thank
Can
you very
I,
much. Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Can I just let two people speak here quickly? Tom had his hand up for a bit, and then Alexandra. Tom, do
course.
you have something you wanted to say right now?
Yeah, Matthew Taylor helped me out with my problem. So I'm okay.
Oh, okay, and Alexandra had her hand up, but I guess she's no longer. Okay, sorry, I just
Bye.
wanted to give them a chance to speak. Sorry, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'm new to this. I'm very fresh. I just after he shows you your website, I want to show you my site and the problem I'm having before
Yes.
8:30 hits.
Sure.
Who's speaking right now?
Ellen,
Alexandra. I'm 25 years old.
We can't see you.
Who is it?
You wanna see me? Sorry.
There you are.
How come your image doesn't appear when you talk?
It's two separate controls, audio and video.
Is this Alexandra?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay. So when sorry, I lost my train of thought. Okay, is it okay if I show you my site and the problem I'm having?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Okay, can you see this?
Yep.
Okay. So as a plugin, I used Elementor, but for 3 days straight, I've been trying to use this and it's not working. I've tried unplugging it and like activating it, deactivating it and deleting it and then reinstalling it, and it's still not working. It takes forever to load. I don't understand why. I've tried different ones, but it doesn't have the same tools. So like it constantly like just loads. Like I've had it on for an hour and a half and nothing was loading. So
Well, that's definitely not normal behavior for Elementor.
no.
Oh, that's a
No.
conflict of some type.
Do you have other page builders installed?
I don't know if I uninstalled them or not, but I can check.
Well, you've got a lot of plugins installed. I ran into a similar problem with my website last week, and I solved it by disabling a plugin. So you might want to just usually what more experienced people suggested to me is that when you run into problems, just disable all your plugins and start reactivating them one at a time and see if that solves the problem.
Okay.
I seem to recall there is a plugin that helps you do just that.
A plugin for plugins.
Well, sometimes it's just the number of plugins, and what you want to do is selectively turn off and keep track as to whether or not it affects the problem, and then that way kind of narrow things down. If you're up in the 50, 60 plugins sort of category, then you need a tool for that. But if it's a modest number, as we may have here, then turning off suspect plugins just to see if they affect Elementor's performance is one way to go about it, right? Other suggestions?
My only suggestion, I see that Matt, Matt has, or Matthew Taylor saying that he's an admin on her site in the chat, and that it started when she changed one of her themes. I would say, just like what Drew or somebody said, or Doug said, turn off or deactivate the themes and see if it disappears. Because if it changed when you updated a theme or changed a theme, then see if disabling that theme allows you to use Elementor again. And if it does, then you know that it's the theme that's got the conflict and not Elementor necessarily.
Okay, that's good to know. I have a question also. Like, what are some important plugins that like
Speak up a little bit,
Speak up.
please.
You'll have to speak up a little bit. Sorry, we don't hear you as well.
I'm quiet. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No, that's why I'm letting you know.
Okay. I just wanted to know like what like are the most important plugins to use for like different domains you've used or like different themes. I don't really know. I just because I'm using Hostinger, so I don't know like what plugins are good for that, you know.
Why don't we compile a list of, say, what, 3 or 4 plugins that we think are really important and not overload Alexandra? For example, I would say a backup plugin is really important, even though WordPress does include the capability of doing it, directly. But a good backup plugin is a really valuable thing. So that's one thing. Does somebody else like to make a suggestion of a?
I don't want to mention any particular plugin, but I do want to say that last week Jacques had a great web Zoom meeting to talk about building sites and different things and plugins. He talked a lot about backups, and tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow, he's got another one, and he's going to be talking about building a site and important plugins. And that's, I think, if you're available tomorrow, Alexandra, that you would probably get a lot out of Jacques' webinar tomorrow, his little Zoom meeting tomorrow, because he's going to go through a bunch of things and probably revisit the backup software you need when you're building a site, Elementor, some key elements, which is what I think you're asking for, right? Key elements for building your site, what would be important?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it would be a great idea to do that. Jason's asking for a link in the chat, so I'll send a link out to everybody for that meetup in a minute. But that's definitely a valuable service. I listened to his last one and got so much out of it. And I think if that's what you're looking at doing, he can definitely give you a lot of good input. Let me see if I can dig that up quickly.
Elementor, it can actually replace a number of other plugins. You often don't need as many other plugins. For example, Elementor has a simple forms function, so you might not need a forms plugin, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So you have a look at the functions that Elementor has itself, and you might not need an extra plugin for those things.
All right.
I find though I've been looking through the 50 some odd sites that my agency's already created, and just that there's like a core set of plugins that are fairly common to each one, and then depending on what like extra functionality, like a flip book or a slider or something else, there's different plugins for specific effects for specific sites. So I think that's, it sounds to me like that's a fairly common pattern. But yeah, just the vast number of plugins though, coming from a pure programming background, I've had like many years experience programming, but not on the web or like WordPress. I find the just the plugins to be pretty daunting because they're black boxes and you don't know how each one of them affects each other. Then you have your theme, and as we talked about before, the theme and the Elementor layer on it. So if you can find something that does, one plugin that does the things that you want, find it, understand it, and keep using it and learn the ins and outs of it. So build your own toolbox, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
That makes a lot of sense. For everyone, I've posted in the chat the link for Jacques' next meetup that he's doing for specific building your website.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay,
Bill.
are we ready to move on to our next request? Do we have a volunteer? No one out there?
I have a really quick question. It's not really a troubleshooting one. It's more just looking for a group opinion on a couple of questions.
Sure. Let us just find you in our gallery here. What is your name?
Jason.
Jason. All right. Is your video on?
1 second.
There we go.
Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
Jason. Fire
Hello.
away.
Hey, Dick, really just quick question. I wanted to know your opinion on, first of all, if there was a preference for Google Analytics plugin, if it should be like, what do you guys think of Google Sitekit versus, Monster Insights versus whatever else is out there? What's the consensus around the best plugin?
Take
to
a
use for
look
that?
at Rank Math and the Google Analytic module that it has. Very good.
Is it a free or subscribe?
It's free, but you can also get a premium add-on they give you a good start. Rank Math is an SEO plugin, and they give you a very good start with the module. But then if you want premium keyword analysis and so forth, the cost is about $30 to $50 per year per website.
Okay,
It
perfect. Thanks.
also depends on whether you are tracking sales through an e-commerce checkout process or not, because not all of the analytics plugins cover that. So are you using WooCommerce on your site?
Not on the one I'm using now, but that's actually a good tidbit. I didn't know.
Yeah. Okay. So because if you're using WooCommerce, then you need to be able to activate the Google Analytics e-commerce extensions. And that for the WordPress analytics plugins, that is a premium feature. So you can use the paid version of Monster Insights, or you can use the premium version of WooCommerce Analytics from the WooCommerce website. It's last time I checked, it was actually a little cheaper than the premium Monster Analytics.
Mm-hmm. Google Sitekit seemed pretty attractive because it kind of signs you up for all of the Google services one after the other, really easy. Does anybody have any negative comments or positive comments around the Google Sitekit? Yes, no?
No, I guess not. No, I don't hear anyone saying anything.
Is anyone
Well, I
even
get-
using it?
Yeah. Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Okay, never mind.
That's okay. Helen asked to ask a question, and I think Canadian Resume has got their hand up also.
can I ask then?
Yeah, go.
Sure, fire away.
Okay, so I have a WordPress site, and right now we're doing some changes to it. But on the homepage, we overrode the theme with custom PHP. So, but now that I'm rebuilding the site, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to just be choosing a new theme and then rebuilding that. But so as I've been experimenting with that, and my IT guy built me our website on our server, on a backend server, so I can just experiment and it won't affect the front end site. But as I've been going through this process, I see that I am on the classic editor. So, and I wasn't even familiar with what's been brought up during this conversation, which is Elementor. So I'm just wondering, if I was going to choose a new, or if I was going to rebuild my WordPress site, should I choose a new theme or should I just build like using Elementor like people have been talking about just now? Like, why choose one over the other?
Who would like to start off on that?
Well, if you could use a theme, you have to use a theme in Elementor. Otherwise, you got to get Pro, and then Pro gives you the option of using templates, selecting templates from the library of templates.
Right.
And yeah, so, but you know, if you want a ready-made theme that has all of the bells and whistles that you want, it's easier to get one. Or you can build it from scratch using the library of templates that they offer you, but that's only if you have the Pro version, I think. So,
No,
you know,
Astra theme has a bunch of templates, and the regular version of Elementor gives you a smaller selection.
yes, that's right. Yeah,
templates,
yeah.
but not nearly as broad as what you get
From the Pro version.
if you get the Pro version.
Yeah.
Finally, there's a plugin called Smart Templates, and it gives you a choice of pretty broad choice of about 60 to 100 templates. And the unique thing about Smart Templates is you can choose whether they will be in Elementor, Beaver Builder, Brizy, or Gutenberg. And that's a real plus if you're not sure what page builder you want to use or page editor you want to use.
Right. Okay. So
the other thing too with the templates is when you import them into your site, you have an option of using your themes, the theme of your site, to override the Elementor theme that you're bringing in.
Right. Okay. So why, okay, like let's say if you have a theme, why are you using Elementor or some page building plugin? Is that what it is? It's described as a plugin?
It's a builder.
A builder. Why are you
plugin.
using a
It's a
builder
plugin.
at all? Like, what's the advantage of using this builder?
It
What's it
helps you
doing?
put together a page. That's what you see is what you get. It helps you. It's modular, and
Right.
it helps you create like images and text, and so you don't have to do it yourself, like using PHP or CSS or any of that stuff.
Okay, but if you have a theme installed, and sorry if I'm going on, just tell me to stop. But if you have a theme installed, then why, like you already have elements in this theme, so why use a page builder?
What the page builder allows you to do is customize the page layout.
Right.
So you don't have to use whatever layout that your theme designer chose to give you.
Right.
Which 100 or 1,000 other sites might also have.
Yeah, indeed.
But I think, Drew, you'd agree that a page builder is warranted for the more complex layouts. A landing page, for example, would be a case potentially for a page builder. So you have to think about your requirements from the point of view of how complex a thing am I trying to create. If I'm talking about relatively straightforward pages and posts, then a good theme may be sufficient. On the other hand, if you're trying to do something that's quite creative and very much for a particular purpose that you don't see your theme addressing with a template,
Right.
and that's something to take into account. There is a bit of a tricky ground because page builders arose when all they could work with was what was called the content area, which was the part of a page or post that you did the writing in. They didn't do the header, the footer, or the sidebars. Now page builders go into those areas as well. So their role and value has changed to a certain extent as a result.
Right.
You can be tempted to build too many things with your page builder because it is so straightforward once you get used to it. And that's not necessarily good for the design of your site, to have variations without purpose or sufficient purpose, let's put it that way. But you'll find a lot of good articles online about page builders and themes, so that there's lots of help, lots of tutorials and guides.
Yeah.
Or comparisons. I mean, page builder number 1 versus page builder A versus page builder B. And they explain them reasonably well in the process. Elementor and Beaver Builder and some of the other page builders are quite popular, millions of users. And so they clearly have value.
Yeah, and I think you've said it best, Robin and Alan. A page builder is the building and a building block, and it's the means to do a lot of the work, but typically speaking of itself is not the theme. Then the theme becomes the look, and so it gives you the certain colors and blocks and things, but it's still not the page builder.
Right.
And then when you add other plugins, those plugins then take from the theme, but the page builder is often then used to edit the content within that plugin.
Right.
And so you kind of need both. Does that answer your question?
Now,
Yeah.
there's one additional point that's important, I think, with page builders, and that is that when you choose a page builder, say Elementor, which could be a good choice, is you're really making a kind of a long-term commitment. You don't want to change the page builder next year from whatever you choose this year. That'll be a fairly serious headache.
Mhm.
So you're really going to be committing yourself for a period of time to get your money's worth out of the time you take to learn and of course what you pay. So if you aren't really confident that you need this page builder,
Right.
or at least
Right.
going beyond the free version of Elementor or Beaver Builder, then you want to be careful, because
Right.
it's not just the time, it's the fact that you can't just snap your fingers and change it. Because you built things out of it, and therefore,
Right.
how do you maintain them? How do you
Right.
keep up with the changes in WordPress core? So
Right.
those are pretty important considerations to take. And there's
Wouldn't
another
be-
one that I won't go into any detail about. Well, I guess I already started. But anyway, there are some big changes in the offing with regard to how themes and page building works. But
Right.
you're probably better off to
That's
just put that
January
aside for the
22nd.
time being and stick with what's now on the market.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
What was that?
if there's a metaphor, it would be like your page builder is like the structure of a building. So you have the first floor, second floor, third floor with all the
Yeah.
steel grid. That's all there is. You take that and then you can add the themes, like the rooms, the kitchen. That's a theme.
Yeah.
And you
right.
add that. Otherwise, you have to build the structure yourself. You have to build the
Yes.
first floor and the second, the third floor. That's
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. Well, and I'm going through that right now, where because we've overridden the theme on our home page with this custom PHP, when I go into the classic editor right now, and if I experiment with changing my theme, I have no content there because there aren't any blocks. So like I'm just at a loss. But with the page builder, maybe that will help me. Jacques, you mentioned a plugin or something too that might be helpful.
Yeah, there's two things that come to mind. First, there is at YouTube, there's
Right.
some great tutorials on page builders and how to use them successfully. Get the latest ones, because if it's not
Yeah,
more, it shouldn't be more than a year old. If it's more than a year old, it's out of date already. And so that is a source where you can sort of, for no cost, get a 20 to 60 minute tutorial on some of the major page builders, and a comparison between them as to which one is more helpful in various circumstances. The circumstances are the second thing that you want to take into account. What's your use case? Are you going to be doing multiple users? That's a different ball game. That's a buddy press and type situation. Are you going to be doing a shopping site? That's another variation in which the various page builders have different strengths and weaknesses. The last thing that you want to consider is, again, it's a use case. Are you going to have to do a membership site where you have many people coming to your site and actually entering your site and doing things there? And that's typical of an event or a membership situation. That's a third category that is very challenging. And you may want to look up membership and event sites in Google and see what are some of the current solutions to that. Alex Sirota is at the New Consulting Group, is an expert in that, and you may want to just send a note or two to him asking for some insights.
great.
Can I add something? I just added it in the chat. Site Origin, it has a builder and it has some themes. They do nice support.
Thank you.
And it's kind of one of those things. I've been using them, and they seem to always save me when I mess up. So
Thank you so much.
I recommend them.
Yes, Helen,
Thank
that
you,
was a
Officer.
good question and got some good points up. So thank you.
Canadian Resume, you had your hand up. I asked in the chat, do you want to still ask a question? I don't know if you're here or not. I don't know who you are and I don't have a name. Canadian Resume, you had your hand up earlier.
I don't see him in the participants. He
Him or her.
was. Actually,
Yeah,
he was here
he's
like
there. He's
half an hour
there,
earlier.
he, she there. But no video, no feedback yet, so.
which
Okay, I guess you
means
can
they're
go on to
plugged in,
somebody
but they're
else,
not
Robin.
necessarily watching.
Guess you can move on to somebody else.
Can I?
Yeah,
Okay.
Canadian Resume
someone
had a
else
hand
like
up,
to make a request and see what we can do for you.
oddly quiet all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Mark that down on the calendar.
So I'm gonna ask a question because Jacques covered it in his last video thing.
Oh,
And
sorry,
he's gonna
Phil,
talk more
Phil,
about it.
Phil,
Yeah, yeah.
Phil, Canadian Resumes just reappeared.
Oh,
If you
okay.
want to
So
make your
Yeah,
request of
Canadian
him.
Resume. It'd be nice to have a name. Who are you? And do you have a video? And do you have a question? Well, I guess they're muted again.
That's
Hands
interesting.
up. Good. Okay.
Okay, back to you,
Please.
Phil.
Canadian Resume, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Turn your video and your audio on. And now your video.
Can't hear you, just so you know. Oh, it's coming.
Say something.
Unmuted.
Say hello.
Have you unmuted? You're,
Yes, she or he is unmuted. And now video, no, it just jumped.
I guess we'll be patient for a second.
Right now, your both audio is muted and video is off. All right. Okay, Phil, why don't you make your request?
I'll ask as a quick question for Jacques to revisit something he spoke about in that one Zoom webinar. Backups. When you talked about the different backups, you mentioned a couple, and I took screenshots of the slides, and I think you're going to be talking more about it anyway tomorrow. But real quickly, you mentioned one in particular. You seem to be really, well, there was a couple you said, but one that you're focusing on more than another. It's definitely not the one I'm using. And I just thought maybe you'd mention again what it is that you tend to aim towards.
I will tell you that I have migrated from Duplicator Pro to Migrator to Updraft Plus, and I'm now looking at WP Vivid, and I will tell you the back end situation is changing very rapidly, and it's sort of like what happened in SEO. Yoast was the place you went to, and nobody considered anything else, maybe all-in-one SEO. But in backups, I am looking very seriously at WP Vivid, VIVID, and the reason is they have a full set of services, and their documentation is the clearest of all the ones. I use currently Updraft Plus to do major migrations. Particularly, major migration is where the website is huge. It's 2 to 3 gigabytes in size. And Duplicator Pro will just not work. Migration, you have to pay extra for it. And so Updraft works, but it's confusing as to what you have to do and various steps along the way. And so I'm looking very seriously because I have a couple of projects where I need to move big sites. So I'm going to look at WP Vivid as my, migration. And the important thing about WP Vivid is it does both backups, migrations, cloning, and staging, where you want to put something out for a period of time and then bring it back in. And that's the full set of services that you expect from a backup service. Currently, they look like the best team in town. But I put a caveat on it. I haven't done a major site move. I've done a minor site move, but not a major site move with WP Vivid. And it's the big ones that really count when you do move. And it also is important that they have good backup choices. Are you going to back up to the cloud, or are you going to back up locally, or are you going to have a choice there? Do both, for that matter. And So it's coming in a February meetup, but it's not yet out the door, so to speak.
I was appreciative of some of the stuff that was brought up because he mentioned the all-in-one WP migration tool. And I'll be honest, I had that and I nothing but disappointment when you go to back it up. It'll allow you to do a backup and do everything for you until you need to do anything with the backup. And then you got to pay.
Yeah.
You got to pay just to use or do anything because it takes tiny chunks of what you've done. It's nasty. It's all a WP migration is nothing but a hook. Absolutely nothing but a hook. They won't do a thing for you. They make it look like they're going to do everything for you.
Notice this? You didn't notice this in the feature set?
Yeah. No, it didn't. It wasn't clear to a neophyte like me. It's really disappointing.
It's a good lesson just in the importance of looking for the hook in a free plugin, because there's an art, I guess, to offering a free plugin and just withholding enough to make it worth upgrading, but not so much as to make the free one of no value. And so,
but let's be honest,
that's a
Robin,
tricky thing to navigate. I mean, it's a hard thing to be a novice.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But there's WP all-in-one migration tool will only back up the smallest of websites. It's worse than a, it'll do some things for you. Not even.
Well, the other thing to take into account is that when you have a plugin that is a full, so-called full suite and has a half a dozen sort of tools, in effect, migration, cloning, staging, backups, and so on, even though they share a common core, the reality is that you're not going to be good at everything. And if you read the fine print, in my case, a month ago, I went through and selected a staging plugin or staging service. And when I got into the very fine print, it turns out that you really do have to pay for the quality of the product and the feature set. And that if you want very fine granular control over how staging works, there's unfortunately just one plugin, and it happens to be twice as much as the next most expensive plugin to compare. But if you want that capability, you have to pay for it.
Oh, Robin, I was just going to mention staging, because I ended up staging, but I didn't end up paying, and it was great.
Well,
so I'm about to start doing it again. Staging
can mean something very simple that's provided by a host, for example, WP
Yeah, that's
Engine
right. It was.
offers free staging.
Yes.
But when you examine the limitations, in my case, it didn't have 3 or 4 things that I thought were really important.
Oh, okay.
One of which was having more than one staging site.
Oh.
Most plugins, even paid ones, limit you to one staging site at a time. You can create one, turn it off, deactivate it, so to speak, as far as the plugin's concerned, and create another one, right? But you can't have 2 of them live at the same time. Anyway, without going into all the details, my point. I'm going
to try that out to see whether I can do it with this one. Now you gave me a challenge.
My point is simply that you need to be careful to understand really what's important to you in the choice of one of these technically sophisticated plugins, like backup, migration, cloning, and so on. Because the one thing you really want most, you may find in the end it didn't have it. You misunderstood it or whatever. And in that respect, the more research you do and the better prepared you are with understanding what you need to do, the better off you'll be. I, for example, wanted to be able to stage from a main hosting site to a local site, from a local site to a main site, right? Well, I could only find one plugin that could do that.
Oh.
Now, most people wouldn't even know that there's such a thing to do in the first place, but it just happens to be what arises out of your work. In any event, not to overburden us on one particular plugin, it's a good example, though, of just how plugins work. So, Phil, is that?
Yeah. It's Canadian Resume. You got your hand up again. Are you ready to go?
And this will be the last try.
I hope so. But I don't want to interrupt the host from speaking, so
Not really getting you.
I think there's a technical problem in the audio at a minimum, and perhaps more, because what we did here, it wasn't good audio at all.
Very choppy.
Well, it wouldn't even go that far.
Yeah. Like
It just wasn't working, period. So if we have another person with a request, we could do that and then try CanadianResume.ca again. Or why don't you try,
Ruiz,
Phil, on
Ruiz,
the chat directly and see if you can resolve whatever the audio problem
yeah.
is.
In the meantime, Ruiz or Erwin had her hand up, or
Hello, good evening.
his hand up. Sorry, Ruiz.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Yes, I have a question. It is possible to connect WordPress website to MySQL and also to SQL at the same time?
That sounds like a question for Jacques if he's still around. Jacques, are you there?
Yeah, I missed the question though.
Ask
Okay,
again, Ruiz.
Reese, why don't you put the question to him again?
Yes. I'm a web developer. Okay, so I am specialized in PHP programming. So I'm new in WordPress. I built from scratch all the website, but WordPress it's new for me. So I'm wondering if I can connect WordPress website to MySQL database, and at the same time I can collect information data to SQL server. I mean, two different engines, database engine. How can I do that? There is any plugins, or do I need to do manually the code on the WordPress website?
Where is your website? Is it on locally on your own PC, or is it on a server?
Yeah, it's on my local PC right now, but I have a connection. I have a connection to both database.
Okay, and that always presents a problem, and the problem is twofold. First, you can't show people the website on the local website on the web, except in the case, I think, of Flywheel has a version of WordPress that you run locally, but you can show it through the cloud to other people. The second problem is you may need to optimize things, and to some of the optimizers just won't work on the local machine, and so you have to move it to a web host on the net, and then you can optimize it there. I mean, you have the full set of WordPress plugins and services. So I don't know if that answers your question, because if you're running things locally, you should be able to do. Are you using XAMPP as your local WordPress hosting service?
Yes, I'm using actually right now Laragon.
Oh, you're using Laragon. Well, that's what I'll be showing tomorrow in the seminar. I'll be using Laragon, and now my problem is that I can only show it over Laragon, over Zoom or you know, other services. I can't show, I can't point to it, and other people can visit it. You just can't do that because it's on your
Yeah.
local machine, and it doesn't have reach to the outside world, so to speak. Now,
Yes, Jack, just by the way, the local app from Flywheel does exactly what you said in terms of you can provide someone with a URL and they can find your site, but I don't think it requires any cloud service. I think they're getting
yeah,
web service directly from your local machine.
yeah, that's a tough problem. I think there is a solution to that, but I'm not sure. You know, I was reading about it about a year, maybe a year and a half ago. A service that would allow you to run locally and a WordPress site or any website for that matter, and make it available on the web. And damned if I can remember what that solution was.
Yes, but I think
I'd
it's
be
important to
hard
note.
pressed to tell you.
I think it's important to note that you only want to do this, for example, to show a client pages that you're working on, or some very limited use. You wouldn't consider, hopefully you wouldn't consider local hosting for a normal site that had you know, any measurable amount of traffic, simply because it's not really suited for that. That's not the sort of the use case that it was designed, that these things are designed for. Now, I wasn't clear, Ruiz, from your question. I mean, you know that the WordPress site itself has an instance of MySQL, what is it? MySQL running. And so what you're saying, can I get another database connection going on the site to do some work that you have for it? Is that the question?
Yes, that's the question. I want to connect the website to two databases at the same
Okay,
time.
wait a sec. You're saying the way you're formulating the question is confusing. The WordPress site comes with a database, so to speak. You understand that, right?
Yeah, it's coming with MySQL.
Now, are you talking about another database, another pair of databases on top of that? Or are you talking about using the WordPress internal, so to speak, database for some extended purpose beyond the site, and then separately a SQL database to do something else? Is that the situation?
Almost like that. I want the website.
Because that's not what Jack was answering.
Yeah, because what I'm saying, I want the website to be able to connect and retrieve data from two different databases.
Okay, where are those databases? Are they on your local machine?
Yeah, I have it on my local machine, and I have it on a web server also.
Okay.
Why would you need two databases instead of one?
It's because it's the company that I'm working for.
Yeah.
They want to retrieve some data from the server, from the SQL server, and
Right.
they want to retrieve another data from the MySQL.
Yeah.
But I don't, does that require two databases though?
There's a
Yes, I'm sorry, but yes, because the company data, I mean, like the company in the company itself, like for the invoices, for everything about the company, it's located in a specific SQL database. So he wants to be able to get specific data from that server to the web server and display it.
Okay, I think that's
as
pretty
long as it's a
straightforward.
local web server, it's a more difficult situation than if it is a internet web server available through what WP Engine or WHC.ca and so forth. A hosting service that's on the internet, and your server is there, then you can get at data anywhere else on the internet.
Well, because you're
And
using,
you can
using the
use,
host
there's
server,
a
right?
special plugin called WPDB, and it will allow you to look at only MySQL databases, but MySQL or MariaDB databases anywhere on the net, okay? And you can then bring them into those database, and the information on those databases, you can bring it into your web server and make comparisons, you know, create big cross tables and joins and all the rest of the stuff. But
can we resolve one question?
I don't know how you're going to do it.
Jock, let's separate the questions. Is the use of local hosting, is that just for development purposes, or are you thinking of running the site locally?
The site is running on the company side.
Okay,
They
so
have-
the local is not an issue then, right?
No,
So
no, it's
you're
not an
going
issue.
to be having access to a
To the server.
SQL Server
Yes,
instance from the hosting level, right?
right.
Okay, so then a connection to that to bring data into your site, which you can then deal with as you wish in terms of how you present it or handle it or process it. So I think it's, Jacques pointed out the key point that as long as you're you have access to a SQL server, right, or a MySQL application where you can get an instance running for your site, then
Yes,
that's good to go.
yes. So far, what I'm doing is creating PHP script. I transferring every night or every certain time data from SQL into my SQL table. Then I use the data that is in my SQL table. The problem is that this script run only at night. So it's not the data is not in real time. Understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not real time. Yeah.
So I was looking like a plugin or something that connect both database at the same time, retrieve data and save data.
There may be one, but I'm not sure if anybody here has had any personal experience with that. That's a fairly specialized use case. In fact, I've never heard of it before.
Okay, thanks a lot. I will keep.
But have we given you some direction in terms of our thinking?
Yeah. I think I might create a plugin or something to do that. Yeah, thanks a lot.
There's a connection possible through an external routine called Zapier, Zapier, and it has connections to WordPress, but also a broad set of databases, not just MySQL and MariaDB. It's to SQL Server, Postgres SQL, you know, the whole shooting match of relational databases. But it also connects to some of the big databases. You know, there's some huge databases that, for example, Facebook has one, and there's several. And Zapier will give you those connections, but the problem is it's not cheap, and it's very specialized in terms of how it works and so on and so forth. And it may not work in the situation that you're in at this point in time.
I just did a quick Google search on this issue and found a plugin that I'd never heard of before called WP Data Access that sounds like it might do what you're looking for, Ruiz. It has 10,000 users, so it's
yeah,
and it is for it looks like it's for accessing external data, external to WordPress.
But the restriction
here.
is it's got to be MySQL or MariaDB. Well, and Postgres. I'll be covering that in February 1st meetup.
This is the one written by Passionate Programmers BV.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
It's up and coming. WP data table is the and table press are the two big tabling for WordPress offerings at this point in time, plugin offerings. But WP Data Access is up and coming, and it's because it has a broader set of services that and external connections that it will allow. But it costs more, of course, every time you do a specialized connection like that.
All right. Any last comments before we move on from anyone? We're somewhat down in our numbers. iHearts are left. Our Canadian resume is, well, the hand is still up. Oh, no, phone connection.
Yeah,
audio
I
connection just
actually,
tried and failed.
yeah, sorry. I actually have myself unmuted now. I'm not sure if I'm coming across.
Yep.
You are coming through. Audio.
Okay, perfect. Right in time, just before the meeting closes. I actually have a question. So far, WordPress desktop version is working fine for me. However, in the back end, when I preview the mobile version, things look fine and the image is there. However, if I actually directly access it from my mobile device, I'm finding that the main page is not loading as intended. And so basically the background image is gone. And I tried to make the edit to the mobile version by changing the font size and to make it more mobile friendly. However, the preview version is ensuring that the desktop version and the mobile version is coinciding, where in reality, if I actually access it directly from the mobile device, I'm not seeing the same version. I'm wondering if you have any tips on resolving that by any chance.
Good question.
What's the theme? What theme is on the site?
Oh, the theme. The name of the theme is Suki, S-U-K-I.
Suki.
Okay.
And does that have the ability to bring up the mobile version and allow you to work on it separately from the desktop version?
Yes, it allows me to customize.
Oh,
But you're clear on the distinction, though, that you can modify the main site and then modify the mobile version of the main site as separate editing processes, right?
Yes,
So
so
in other words,
I'm
it's
trying
not
to share
respecting the mobile settings somehow here, right?
That's true, and I'm trying to share my screen, so I
We can
don't
see
know
it.
if you're able to see it.
We can see it.
Okay, perfect. So I know that the other participant was asking questions surrounding Elementor, and as you can see, there's the Elementor layout, which shows all the buttons that you can leverage to embed the videos and snaps, icons, and whatnot. So I actually like the Elementor, but I haven't really used Elementor. The reason for having used Elementor is I was told that I could create a more mobile-friendly website using Elementor. So I'm just recently installed Elementor and tried to experiment with it. So as you can see from what I'm currently sharing, if I actually access the mobile version through Elementor or through WordPress Edit, I am able to see the yellowish background image. However, if I actually directly access it from my mobile device, there is another image which I'm sharing, And this is the mobile view of the website where the yellow image is gone and I just see the navy background.
Okay, who'd like to lead off?
Well, I can confirm, I looked at it on my iPhone and I can confirm that I'm seeing the same thing, that it's not properly displaying the mobile version. I'm just having a look at the theme to see what's going on with this theme.
Is the page that we're viewing now a page built with Elementor or just from the theme?
Just on the theme. So the page has been built
So wait a
just
sec,
on
wait a
the
sec.
theme.
So wait a sec. So Elementor's not involved in this at this point, correct?
Correct.
Unless you build a page or post out of Elementor, then it's not involved in the process of debugging a page or post, right?
Yes, but I'm not trying to debug the site. There's no bugs whatsoever. It's just that
Well,
the
you know, the
mobile
bug is that
not-
it's not displaying the mobile version. And what I'm trying to distinguish between is whether Elementor's involved. And from what you're saying, it's not. So it's just the theme question now. Does that make sense? Does that, anybody disagree with that?
That I
Yeah.
agree with what you said. I agree with what you said because
I'm just trying to be methodical. That's all, just to work through the thing. So back to Drew. So we're just then concerned about the theme's ability to render the mobile version, right?
Correct.
Does the, well, what are we displaying here now? We're in the
Header child theme header PHP.
right. But what's relevant about that now?
So basically, I actually found resources where I've been suggested to modify the mobile vertical header setting directly.
Wow,
to
I
the
think if you're going to do that directly in code, you really, I mean, do you consider yourself experienced enough to I mean, that's a non-trivial task as compared to using the theme's own tools and the WordPress tools.
Yeah, so I'm open
personally,
to
I
either
wouldn't take
or.
that approach. I mean, other guys, what do you think? Would you go into the header.php, Drew, and play with that for the mobile version?
That would be a last resort if nothing else worked.
Yeah, for sure. So should we look at the mobile version in the editor? I mean, let's edit the page in question and then show us, click the icon that shows the mobile version and we'll see what controls there are or settings or options. So all we're seeing is the custom CSS section. Just for the sake of it, in the, click one of the desktop button or the tablet button, and let's just see what it does in the bottom left. Right? Okay, so this is what it's supposed to be, right?
Yes.
Now, how is that image going to size down successfully? Are you going to want that image just made narrower or crop the image to a smaller size? Which are you trying to do? Which do you want to do?
So in order to fit the device, it would need to be narrower than the desktop.
No, but what I'm asking you is, if you had to choose, do you want the image that we're looking at resized, but maintaining the image itself, or do you want to crop the image to 1/3 of its size or less?
It would be ideal if the image is kept as is.
Right, which would mean a little bit different treatment because that image would be much smaller. If it maintained the ratio of length to width, it would be a much smaller image on the mobile version, right? Which you may find fine or not. But I think that's one issue has to be addressed.
Yeah,
Do you
the
have-
aspect ratio.
Sorry?
It's the aspect ratio. You usually have in the mobile portion, they let you choose whether the image will be fill, aspect ratio, preserving, and there's a third option. And
Well,
that's
let's go there.
usually
Let's go there.
available in the page builder.
Let's go there now and see it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's
I
much
can't
better
go
than
there.
talking about it.
Let's see if I can see it on my machine. Edit, post.
I think we should definitely close this header file. It's scary just seeing it up.
Now,
Maybe we should just go to the editor, bring up the page in question, and click the mobile icon and see what we have to choose from.
no. How do I do that? I'm not sure.
No, I think you're going about this the wrong way. I think go and edit the page. And I mean, you know what page this is. It's either the home page, the front page, or index.html, right? So let's just go there, bring that page up. Right?
Okay, so which option, edit?
Just the standard edit, because if you didn't create it with Elementor, you don't want to edit it with Elementor. You edit it with what you created it with. Or if you didn't create it, then the standard editor. All right. So what do we got here?
So I hear your point. It's just that after editing, I installed Elementor recently. So should I click on back to WordPress editor?
Well, I think the point's fairly clear. If you haven't used Elementor on the page in question, then you don't want to edit it with Elementor, and you can put Elementor aside because it's not involved. Elementor doesn't do anything until you use it to create something, right? Otherwise, it just sits there and takes up space and money. So let's go back to the WordPress editor, right? Like this may be the problem, is that if you're trying to use the Elementor editor on a non-Elementor page, who knows what effect it'll have. All right.
Exactly.
Okay, so now we want to look at the mobile version of this page. Well, we're not getting much of a view of the thing. This looks like a template.
Yeah, so I mean, for the sake of time, I really appreciate your help, but I might need to ask someone with expertise on this offline if possible.
Do we have any volunteers? I think you're at a point where you're a little confused about sort of which editor does what, and you know how you build a page or create a page, because this isn't the page that you want to modify for the mobile version. So yeah, I think we sort of run out of time, but
For a situation like this, I think it might be an idea actually to change the site theme to something like Astra or Generate Press, or something that's a little bit better known, more of a known quantity, and build it in something like that rather than one of these theme forest themes that seem to be the cause of at least half the problems that we see from month to month here in this group. Get yourself a good, solid, well-known theme, and you've solved an awful lot of your problems.
So I think the advice that you're giving, Drew, if I can characterize it, is that it can pay off to be conservative in what you're looking for in a theme, and to pick a popular one that's well regarded, but isn't necessarily got a lot of features, because that will simplify your life to the extent where you can get a site up and running and you'll be satisfied with it. And then you can consider adding features and capabilities, because if the theme is well built, as the ones that Drew mentioned, like Generate Press, you can change the theme at the click of a button and get a pretty good result, a pretty faithful result to the work you've done. You can't do that with themes that have small followings and that aren't necessarily updated regularly and aren't, necessarily well built by a developer. So I think, Drew's point is stick to the middle of the road, be conservative, get the site built so that it's working. And then I would add to that, then you can consider more complex features and capabilities and start using Elementor for more complex layouts.
That could be a mantra for this group. And I'm afraid that with that, I have to sign off because I have to go and do something else now. Okay, so until
Thank
next
you,
time.
Drew, for your contributions as always.
Thanks, Drew.
I think we're it's 8:30, so I think we're done. I think we're down to just a few of us left in any event. Nice to see you again, Phil.
Yeah,
and
thank you
Gail.
for the feedback. I just want to thanks for the feedback and thanks for your patience with a bit of a difficulty there.
No
That's
problem.
good.
We're happy to help you, and feel free to come back and show us how it's going, or cry on our shoulders or whatever.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to tell us your name.
Yeah, and it's quite possible that you don't look as however you're afraid you look, so you can show it your face. I don't know why Jacques gone, so anyway, we're done, I think. Thank you all. There is a recording, a chat transcript, a live transcript, and I'll see what I can do to get them up and loaded into the cloud and a link published. Hopefully I'll get the next announcement email out in the next couple of days, rather than the Christmas holidays had a bit of an effect, and it took Alex about 2 or 3 weeks to give me the YouTube login stuff, so that's why the record didn't make it. Anyway, so it's time to
I
sign
actually
off.
have one more question. Sorry, as a participant, I actually noticed that I wasn't getting the meeting link after signing up for the event through Meetup. I don't know if that's the norm, but I actually joined directly through WordPress website, because they had the page where it said, oh, Toronto WordPress site is having a meeting on January 18th. And so that's how I was able to join. But after signing up through Meetup, I wasn't getting any a Zoom link. I don't know if that's the way.
Normally what happens is when you RSVP, then and you fill out whatever that pop-up is, and that window closes. If you simply look at the Meetup page again, in the right-hand sidebar, you should see both the Zoom URL and the password in that box on the right-hand side, but only after you've RSVP'd and returned to the page.
You also,
Okay, got it.
in the RSVP pop-up, I'm pretty sure it's where I saw it. There's the link for adding it to your calendar, which also embeds the link into your Google iCal or whatever you're using. I tend to use Google because it's seamless at that point, because it's already on the browser I'm using is Chrome. But then you'll get the Meetup notices ongoing.
There's an
Okay,
option that we
thank you.
have that I just happened to glance at, that you can have the URL set up so that when you click on it, it provides both the ID for the session as well as the password in one step. I don't know if that's something that's straightforward to turn on, just flip a switch or not, but that's not what the person was asking. Whether she was aware that the link appears in the right sidebar or not, that's normally the place. And I've never not seen it once I've RSVP'd.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your expertise. Truly inspiring session. Thank you so much. I'll log
Happy to
out
have
now.
you, and we'll see you guys all next month, I hope.
Yeah,
Take care,
thanks,
everybody.
thanks, guys.
Ciao.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye,
Take
Dale.
care.
Bye, Rob.
Bye.
Robin. Bye, Jacques.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Save chat. Where's the transcript?